Okay, my name is Mary Martin. I am the Executive Director at the Greater Farmington Area Chamber of Commerce. For those of you who I have not met yet, welcome, and welcome all those that I have met. We have some of our returning leadership this year to the State of the Cities. We also have some new leaders that will be presented. But right now, this is an impromptu. Ray Okonski is our resident engineer, inventor, philanthropist, and longtime resident of Farmington Hills, and he'd like to say a few words before we get started. Ray?
Thank you for the applause. Can you hear me? I've lost most of my hearing, so I sound like I'm in a mirror. I've been living in Farmington Hills for 52 years, and I would suggest that's longer than some of you have been alive. So I've seen a lot of things, including gravel roads. I'm here today because for the last 2.5 years I've been working with the University of Detroit Mercy and some school kids to design a wheelchair escalator. Most of the equipment that takes people in wheelchairs upstairs or downstairs or sideways are expensive. They generally require licensing, etc. We put together a wheelchair escalator that is something like a backyard toy. You bring it in. You need no licensing. You bring it in. Two guys can install it for a half hour, and people can ride up and down. And when I say escalator, I mean just the way it sounds. It's basically an outside device that'll help older people jump either on their wheelchair or just by themselves. If many of you, not many of you are there yet, but you'll find out in 5 or 10 years that carrying a package up and down steps, etc. And so all I want to say, if you know anybody or are interested in anything like that, see me. Everything we do, I'm trying to find someone who's going to make it and give all the royalties, etc., to the University of Mercy, University of Detroit Mercy, where my wife graduated. And I got 52 seconds, and thank you very much for your time. And I have a couple of flyers for which I'm not charging any. You can get them for free. I'm approaching 95.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ray. Thank you, Ray.
Well, most of you are too, but I'm a lot closer.
I love Farmington. Farmington is a great spot. Okay, so I'm going to get us started. I'm going to say a few words up here, and then we'll start the program. I would like to take a moment right now to welcome some of our dignitaries. We have council members from the City of Farmington and the City of Farmington Hills. I'm not going to name everyone, but if you could all raise your hands and be recognized. Farmington Hills, over here to my left, and Farmington. Oh, well, except for... I'd also like to thank our first responders and public safety for joining us today. I know this is probably a very busy day for all of you, so thank you for taking the time to be here. All right. I did get the opportunity to finally meet the Honorable Judge James Brady. I do believe he is here, and Judge Marla Parker I did see. So, very good. Thank you, folks. Thanks for coming. I would also like to acknowledge the Chamber Board members who are also in attendance. I won't call them out by name, but if the Chamber Board members could stand up or wave so that you can be recognized. Thank you. We also have in attendance our very hardworking ambassadors who are also mentors for our new businesses that come into the chamber. So I'd like to thank you folks for being here today as well. Please raise your hand to be recognized. Thank you. Oh, there you are. And of course, before we wrap things up, I'd like to thank my staff too. Marcia Rodeheffer's Director of Membership. Yay, Marcia. If you haven't met Marcia, raise your hand, Marcia. We've got Kate McEwen, who is our event coordinator, and Cheryl Zidell, who is also here at the front desk with registration. So thank you, ladies. Now I'd like to say a quick thank you to our sponsors. Our premier sponsor this morning is Beaumont Hospital, Farmington Hills. Thank you so much for putting your efforts and your time into our State of the Cities. Our contributing sponsors are Bosch, Consumers Energy, Paulson's Audio and Video, and Wright Beamer Attorneys, so please give them a warm welcome too. Our supporting sponsors, Community Choice Credit Union and Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union are also here this morning. Raise your hands and be noted. Thank you. We also have our expo participants also hosting tables. Over to my left is CMIT Solutions. Steve Chang with Edward Jones is also here as support. Office Depot is here, and of course Paulson's with the gigantic TV. So if you haven't had a chance to put your name in the raffle, I want to tell you that's a new thing. It wasn't on the program, so we're going to do a raffle at the end of State of the City, so thank you. And also our material sponsor, Thomas A. Duke. I think Dan Blugerman is in the audience somewhere. Thank you, Dan. Okay. So just again, I mean, without the constant and generous support and contributions that our sponsors and our members do make, you know, the State of the Cities is one of my favorite events that we have each year, and we couldn't do it without you, so thank you again. Okay, next, I would like to welcome our premier speaker, Ms. Connie O'Malley. Before she comes up, I'm going to say a few words. What I'm learning about Connie is she has spent a lifetime at Beaumont, it seems, starting out at the Beaumont Medical Center in West Bloomfield, worked her way to VP of Surgical Services and Trauma Transplant and Ambulatory Services at Beaumont Hospital in Royal Oak, then moved on to the Vice President and COO position at Beaumont Hospital in Troy. Also led the daily operations there for ambulatory services, and now is the first female president of our own Beaumont Hospital in Farmington Hills. Thank you, Connie. Come on up. Give her a warm welcome.
So I think I could have used that escalator to get here this morning. Does it travel? That would have been great. So no, thank you, Mary. Appreciate the introduction, and I want to say good morning to all of you, and thank the Greater American Chamber for hosting this event this morning. We believe it's a very important event for our city. I'm pleased to be with you this morning to update you a little bit on what's happening on our campus and our commitment to the city of Farmington Hills. So 2017 really has been a busy but exciting year for the Beaumont Farmington Hills campus. Our hospital and surrounding facilities continues to transform. I'll say not a day goes by where we are not feverishly working to repair and replace many of our systems on our campus. To date, I'm happy to report, drum roll, we are almost 60% complete on our total construction, and we have actually committed over $112 million to contractors on our expansion project, and the process continues to move ahead on time and on budget. Very good. Our leadership and planning teams are beginning to review and prepare for the moves into the new spaces, which actually will be opening this December. So very quickly. In only a few short months, we will be moving into an additional 193,000 square feet of space to support the healthcare needs in Farmington Hills and our surrounding communities. Beaumont continues to invest in our local community and to serve those who need healthcare and support. We are striving to provide exceptional care to our patients and family, and our moonshot goal is becoming the leading patient and family-centered healthcare system in the country by 2022. The campus has officially opened its $15 million parking deck just about a year ago. The helipad, which about $600,000, is now in service about 6 months. Our central energy plant, if you haven't seen that, that is absolutely amazing. $22 million is now completed and ready for spring, where we will commission that into service. That central energy plant will service our existing facilities as well as our new towers. We want to thank DTE, who actually helped us complete an additional substation on our property to provide additional phone lines, primary lines, electrical lines to our site, and to provide redundancy to our electrical complement, so that when the lights go out or the power goes out, we have additional equipment to help support everything that's on the campus. As you've probably seen, there are cranes in the air if you've driven by the area. at least 2 or 3 of them, to put the towers up. We have 2 additional towers that are going up. Those will house our private patient rooms and our critical care tower. The staff and the community had an opportunity to sign the steel beam, enjoy hot chocolate and s'mores in December as we prepared for the topping off ceremony, which happened just last week. If you drive by the site, you will see a final beam in place with a Christmas tree and a flag flying proudly above as the structure of the towers is finalized. The construction teams are working hard now to complete the infill of the floors and have started to work on our new emergency department. We want to send a big thank you to the Farmington Hills Fire Department for their support of our planning teams in determining both our temporary ambulance entrance location as well as our final plans for the emergency department drop-off locations. Thank you for your support in helping us design that. You have been true partners in helping us with the planning for our patients' care in the new facilities. In addition, we continue to work with our community Farmington Hills EMS partners, and I want to thank Jim Etzen for his continued support of education programs for our physicians and pre-hospital providers. Beaumont Farmington Hills will continue to work cooperatively to make sure educational programs and offerings are available to all of our pre-hospital providers. I would like to give another big thank you to those who are serving on my Community Advisory Board for all of their guidance and support over the past year. Chair Alan Maxey, Vice Chair Honorable Judge Marla Parker, George Heitz, Dan Irvin, Mary Martin, Mayor Ken Massey, Councilman Bill Galvin, and State Representative Christine Gregg, and Todd Lippa, as well as John Anhott, for your continued support of our campus transformation. Over the past year, Beaumont Farmington Hills has seen tremendous improvements in quality, safety, and service, and of course, our facilities. Our commitment to growth and service is unwavering. As part of the Beaumont Health System, we are now connected to all services within the 8 hospitals and can provide continuity of care for all levels of care to our patients. In 2017, we installed 8 new electronic health systems, including everything from lab to our electronic medical record, radiology, cardiology, and other department systems to bring you the exceptional care that our community deserves. We are also working with our medical staff to bring expertise to our Beaumont Farmington Hills campus in specific service lines to broaden our capabilities at this location. Beaumont Farmington Hills will continue to partner with our community in providing access to health care and supporting wellness activities. We will continue to focus on the 3 areas of care that have been identified in our community needs assessment, which are obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. We have also recently announced that we will be working with CARES in providing community education on a multitude of areas at the church location in cooperation with the CARES team. We are looking forward to continued partnerships with the city and the nonprofits to continue to leverage resources to care for our community. In closing, the Beaumont Farmington Hills team is so proud to live and work in the greater Farmington area, and we thank the Chamber for the great work that is being done in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. We look forward to the managed services and the consistent care that we do receive from Beaumont Hospital, so thank you. I would like to just, right now, just kind of give you an idea of what the program is. I know a lot of you have been here in the past couple of years, but we'll be introducing speakers, welcoming them, and they will be introducing our Farmington Public Schools, Dr. George Heisch. We will also hear from Mayor Steve Schneeman and Mayor Ken Massey. I would like to also recognize that we do have Christine Craig in the audience today, our state representative. Christine, could you wait? Oh, there you are. Thank you. Thanks, Christine. Thanks for coming. Okay. At this point, I would like to welcome Dan Paulson. Dan is from Paulson's Audio and Video, and he is the Vice President of Technical Sales there. As you know, Paulson's you may or may not know, is the toy store for grown-ups. So if you haven't been there, try to get over there and check it out. It's a great store. It's a family-owned business and was started by Ken Paulson in 1992. Ken is also on our board of directors. So please, warm welcome for Dan Paulson.
Thank you, Mary. As Mary said, my name is Dan Paulson. and I am the Vice President of Technical Sales at Paulson's Audio and Video, company that my dad, as Mary said, started 26 years ago. We've been here in the city of Farmington Hills from the beginning, and we've been enjoying it, and we continue to look forward to doing business in our community. Our business has evolved over the years. We've started off selling televisions and stereos. We still do that, but now we have a sales team of design and installation of 30 people. Today we design and install smart home automation systems consisting of motorized shades, lighting systems, surveillance systems. We also specialize in media rooms, theater rooms, stereo systems, all that prices that of which are lower than Amazon Prime and Best Buy. Let me repeat that, lower than Amazon Prime and Best Buy. So keep it local. We're very happy to be here to support the State of the Cities and the Greater Farmington Area Chamber. I'm very happy to introduce Superintendent of Farmington Public Schools, Dr. George Heisch. Dr. Heisch has been in the public education as a teacher, a building administrator, superintendent for more than 40 years. He has served as superintendent of the Farmington Public Schools since 2014. He has begun his educational career as a teacher and athletic director of the Huron Valley Schools and a principal in West Bloomfield Schools. Previously, he was assistant superintendent of instruction for Farmington Schools, then served as superintendent of Avondale Public Schools for 8 years prior to returning to Farmington. Dr. Heiss earned his BA from Olivet College, his MA in classroom teaching at Michigan State, and an educational doctorate in curriculum instruction from Wayne State University. He and his wife, Lisa, have 2 adult sons, both married with children, also here in Michigan. He is an avid runner and sports enthusiast. George is active in the Farmington Hills community. He's a member of the Farmington Hills Optimist Club, the Farmington Rotary Club, shout out there, I like that, and the Zempler Club of Farmington Hills. And he is on the board of directors of the Greater Farmington Area Chamber of Commerce, Farmington Public Schools Education Foundation, and the Farmington Hills Foundation for Youth and Families. Please help me in welcoming Dr. George Heisch.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Roxanne. You know, Roxanne, if you could just tell those high school students that are tweeting me right now about snow days, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to brag about Farmington Public Schools at the State of the Cities. I do want to acknowledge that I'm joined by 3 board members today. Our president, David Turner, joined us. Vice President Terry Weems, and Secretary Mark Przlowski. So I'm going to provide a little context about who we are in Farmington Public Schools. I'm going to brag a little bit, and then I'm going to get off the stage and let you hear about the state of the cities. But I will remind you, we serve about 9,500 students in the city of Farmington Hills, and a little piece of West Bloomfield Township. Our high population within the last decade was 12,089 students. So we've had a drop of 21% in the course of the last decade. And you can imagine that kind of population drop within your student enrollment causes some pretty significant stress on your finances and your buildings. So we've been managing to work through that, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Our graduation rate, though, is 91.5%. The state average for graduation rate is 80%. So there's some value added in Farmington Public Schools there. And we have 77 different languages spoken in Farmington Public Schools. Pretty remarkable. Of those 77 languages, 13.5% of the students that come to us right now that we serve don't have English as a first language. So they're learning English as well as learning the other things. And 24% of our students at some point in their career with us, kindergarten through 12th grade, receive English as a language service, as a second language. We serve students from the age of 3 to the age of 26. So we have 2 preschools, one at Alameda and one at Farmington Community Schools that are both nationally accredited. And then we have a building we call Visions for students that are 19 to 26 that have had some special education needs and are learning life skills and work skills, and you'll see them in the community often. I want to show you how we've changed in the last decade. Our senior class this year, we're going to graduate, if they all make it, 892 students. And that's a fairly consistent number for us when we had that 12,089 students. Of those 892 students, though, over 26% are eligible for free and reduced lunch. It's a pretty big number, more than 1/4 of that class. That class is composed, if you look around and we put them all in the auditorium, 58% of those students would be white students, 10% would be Asian, 29% would be African American, and less than 1% of that senior class would still need English as a second language service. Now, our kindergarten class that came in, and we are really proud of this number, we have 695 students. So in the Farmington Public Schools, when you look at us from kindergarten through 8th grade right now, we live in that band of 700 to 650 students. So for us to have 695 kindergartners is a strong number for us in that range. 22% of those students are eligible for free and reduced lunch, so there's a drop there since the recession's been over. Those students are 53% white, 23% Asian, 20% black, and 30% of our kindergarten class is eligible for English as a second language service. That's a big, big difference, right? So that's one of the changes that we're dealing with. So areas that we're proud of, I just wanted you to have that context. So we have a lot of students that care about each other, and I'm going to run down a list of things that our kids have done to support each other in the community just in the recent past. Two things at Harrison High School that we're proud of. All of our high schools do a week of, I describe it as sharing and caring, where they raise all kinds of money and give it back to other groups. But Harrison High School just had their week, and they ended with what they called International Night. Because our population with those 77 languages, we had all kinds of different groups that represented through cultural activities and food, which is always the best thing, and evening of celebration. Also at Harrison High School, we have a group called the Young Men's Club that's a mentoring group from older students to younger students. This year at the holiday time, that group adopted 20 different families that live within the Harrison community that weren't going to have a great holiday unless somebody looked out for them. And these group of boys, young adults, adopted them with gifts, food, and gift cards and made that happen. We have a group that started about 7 years ago internally that's called Operation Common Good. And it was teachers and students that put together a group just to support other students because they discovered that there were some 6th grade students in their building at Warner Upper Elementary that couldn't afford to go to 6th grade camp. So that's now mushroomed to a system-wide group that provides camp fees. They provide fees for students to do their college application. They provide fees for cheerleading uniforms and all kinds of different activities like that under the radar just to make sure that our students in Farmington Public Schools all have the right kind of access to activities. We have an alternative high school that not many people know about. It's over on Shiawassee Street. It's in what we call the Farmington Community School. I'm sure at some point it served as an elementary here. They were named the Alternative High School of the Year in the state of Michigan last year. We're proud of that for two reasons. One, it's a great honor, great acknowledgement of the work those kids and that staff do, but not every district will run an alternative high school nowadays because you get dinged on your state rating if kids take longer than 4 years to graduate from high school, but some kids need that kind of setting. So we have 65 to 90 students over there that for whatever reason weren't successful in a building of about 1,100 to 1,200 students and needed a different setting and needed to get back on track. We do that. We support the Goodfellows Canned Food Drive and all kinds of Goodfellows work. We have junior optimist clubs in our buildings, and we have a great partnership with the LOC Credit Union where they run student-run credit unions in our buildings, which we think is a good thing. Kids learn to save a little bit of money. They learn a little bit about financial literacy, and then we have students that actually serve as credit union clerks. It's a pretty cool thing, and they get a big deal out of it. We had a grand opening of a school this year. Hard to believe in a declining enrollment environment you would open a new school, but we've, in our process of kind of retrenching and creating a new footprint, we took the Dunkel Middle School and we rebuilt it. And we've now got a thematic school around STEM education that we call the Farmington STEAM Academy that is a kindergarten through 8th grade building. And we wanted to hit two different things there. We did some community surveying, and the community told us loud and strong we want more STEM-related activities. But we also heard from parents that they wanted a more continuous educational opportunity. That kindergarten through 8th grade thing felt right to them. So we know we've got to replicate that because we had 70 seats available this year and we had 600 people apply for those 70 seats. And not only did we have 600 apply, of that group that applied, 25 to 30% were families that live with us but have never taken advantage of Farmington Public Schools. They've always had a different option, private or parochial, so they wanted to come home. Just like Beaumont, we have been in the bond business. We passed a bond a few years ago. It feels to me like we're in phase 112, but the people that do the work say we're only in phase 4. But last summer, we rehabilitated Farmington High School, Power Middle School, 2 elementaries, Wood Creek and Hillside, and we did the Farmington STEAM Academy. And I want to publicly acknowledge for the 3rd or 4th time how great our staff is. I need you to imagine that you've been in your 2nd grade classroom for the last decade or maybe 15 years, and you've just kind of accumulated stuff. And then the superintendent asks you to pack all that stuff up in half a day and trust us to put it on a moving van and it'll all show up magically again. And for the most part, it does show up, and for the most part, they do. So our elementary staff, when they go through this process, they pack all that stuff up. And I've been in classrooms in late August when they're unpacking. There are 50 boxes worth of stuff that have to get set up. So they get back in the building on Wednesday afternoon before school starts and have a long afternoon or a long weekend to throw that classroom back together. And by a miracle, when school starts the day after Labor Day, kids would never know. So our staff is remarkable in that way. The other thing that we've learned through this process is it takes a long time to rebuild a high school. Our high schools take us 18 months just because of the nature of the size and scope. So we're constantly rehabbing a classroom and moving you out and then moving you back in over the course of the time. So the coolest spots we'd love you to see. We'd be a little worried if you just dropped in off the street because of safety reasons. But the Farmington High School auditorium is the first view of what our new auditoriums will look like. It's magnificent. And the Farmington High School Media Center has been rebuilt to kind of mimic future business collaborative space. Large space in the middle, open area for students, still books, a lot of digital technology, and a lot of smaller work areas along the side for small group collaboration and small group learning. I get a lot of feedback. I had a list of 14 or 15 different ways I get feedback from community members through coffee, but I'm going to share my best piece of feedback for you for the last, because I have a letter from a 1st grade classroom at Longacre that needed to provide me some feedback about the lockers that they got this year that I want to share with you. One of the tasks the Board of Education gave me a couple years ago in the midst of all this was to start looking future forward. Right, we're spending a lot of time moment to moment in Farmington Public Schools, or we had been, just trying to get from year A to year B to year C to kind of get the wheels back on the bus and things moving in the right direction. So we started a strategic planning process last year. We had about 40 or 50 community members that joined us. There are some people that shared their time with us here in the audience right now. And that group came up with 4 kind of larger, broad goals. We have a curriculum and instruction goal, a goal around the way we feel about our school system and around school culture. We have a goal always in finance, right? You got to manage your house, and then we have a goal around community relations. And now, right now, we've got a new group of community members working with us in work teams to come up with the strategies and actions for us to implement, to lead forward for the next 3 to 5 years, because things change so rapidly in our world and in our business that to think you're going to know what's going to happen in a decade in public education is just false hope. So I'm going to leave you with a few data points I want you to remember about Farmington Public Schools, because things are going right there. Again, we have a 92% graduation rate, and that doesn't matter which high school you go to. It doesn't matter where you live in our community. Right? So your zip code doesn't matter. How much money your parents make doesn't matter. Shade of your skin doesn't matter. We still graduate 92% of our kids. Then I thought, we're now under pressure, right? In the good old days, when I was growing up, it was enough to graduate from high school, and I grew up in Lapeer, Michigan. So my classmates all went either to Flint or to Pontiac and got a great job in a shop. They were either making spark plugs or they're building cars, and I remember coming home as a freshman after my first year of college and just being mad at my classmates that hadn't gone to college because they had money in their pockets and they were driving cars, and I didn't have either one, right? And I was pretty upset that I was going to college and they were making all this money. But now the expectation is you're going to leave us and you're either going to go to college or you're going to be career ready. And there's some metrics out there now that measure that. So the state of Michigan Department of Education has put together a site for what we call the parent dashboard, and there's some pretty cool buttons you can click on there. So there's one button that will tell you how many of the Farmington Public Schools kids leave us and go to college. Well, about 70 to 80% of our kids leave us and go off right away. And then they want to know, well, did they go off and did they need all kinds of special help, right? Or did you have them ready for college? Well, 66% of our students that go don't need any remedial courses. And they think if you don't take college algebra, you need remedial math. And they think if you're struggling in your freshman English class, you may need a writing course. So the colleges are making that decision for us. So 66% of our kids don't need any extra support when they go to college. And then there's a button on that site you can click in and it says, well, what about the 30 closest schools around you? So I click on that button because I want to know who am I better than, right? Only 33% of their kids that go to college do it right on the first time. And then I want to know, do you stick, right? It's not enough to go to college your freshman year and have a good time and come home and live in the basement. But the research indicates if you make it back on campus for your sophomore year successfully, you're going to at some point finish. May not be in 4 years, but you're going to finish. So 82% of your Farmington Public School graduates that go to college are persistent. They make it back for that sophomore year, even though they may have enjoyed their freshman year to the hilt. They're back there and they've got a great chance of success. When I hit that closest 30 schools buttons, only 60% of their students make it back. We worry about opportunity. I want you to know that 37% of your high school students in Farmington Public Schools are taking college credit while they're in high school. That's a pretty big deal. Saving somebody some cash at some point, right? They're either taking it through dual enrollment, which means they've signed up for a university course, or they're taking an advanced placement course or an international baccalaureate course. And we actually have Lawrence Tech right now coming out and teaching classes on our campus for some of our small needs groups that we just can't meet from a staffing standpoint. 26% of your middle school kids are taking a high school class in middle school. So I've been in this business, as Dan said, a long time, right? I've seen what used to be kindergarten no longer exists as kindergarten. It's now preschool. What used to be first or second grade now happens in kindergarten, and what used to happen in high school is now happening in middle school. So 26% of our middle school kids are either taking algebra, geometry, or the first year level of foreign language in 7th or 8th grade, which is a great thing if you can manage the skills. You hear a lot of talk about career tech and tech ed. 41% of your high school students take a career or technical course while they're with us. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to come out certified to be a Microsoft dude, right, or a Cisco guy, but they're at least going to have tried and test-driven it so that they've got some sense later on in life what they may want to do. And even 19% of our middle school kids take a career or tech ed course while they're in middle school. From a budget standpoint, we're the third year in a row where our revenues exceed expenditures. We think that's a pretty important thing nowadays in public education. And we've added the fund equity. I haven't always been happy with the Board of Education when they've asked me to do this because I would like to spend more money on kids. But we're back up to 11% fund equity. And that's an important thing for us because we've decided in the state of Michigan that when your fund equity drops to 5%, the Michigan Department of Treasury comes in and wants to be your friend and help you. We don't want their help, and we don't want them to be our friend. So I have some people to thank. I want to thank both cities. They work great with us. And you know there's a lot of conversation about property right now around the district, right? Harrison High School. We're past the question, I think, in the community of will Harrison High School close. Everybody recognizes that that makes sense economically and educationally, right? We're spread so thin across 3 high schools that we can't offer the opportunities that we want for all of our children. Now the question is, what will happen to Harrison High School? How will it best serve the community? How will it best serve the Farmington Public School District? And there's some competing values there, right? The Board of Education feels a first priority to the system and to maximizing value. And there are many of us in the community that feel a value to the community. There's some assets there. We're working with the city of Farmington to figure out how do we create developable land so that somebody can build homes and kids can go to our schools. And that means us kind of vacating some space that we're currently in. And we all got to do that within an economic world that makes peace with everybody. Not an easy thing to do, kind of complex. So we're working through that. And we think we're going to have answers to that within the next couple months. So I wanted to thank them. We have great parents. Our PTAs and our PTA council support us and help us all the time. We've also got the Farmington African American Parent Network because we're working diligently as a school system to not only provide equal opportunity for everybody, but we want to close achievement gaps. Right now, I can tell by the shade of your skin pretty much what your proficiency level is going to be. We don't want that to happen. We want to eliminate that, and we got a lot of work to do that. It's not a Farmington issue. It's a national issue. We work with two foundations really closely, the Farmington Education Foundation, who really support innovation and technology in our district, but also the Foundation for Youth and Families, who have really stepped up to help our families in need. They've embraced that need with us as we've helped articulate it. Bosch helps us around STEM education, and Beaumont helps us whenever I ask for help. So I was going to list all these different ways that people are giving me feedback, because trust me, people are not afraid to provide feedback to me. At times I feel feedback full, and I would like to provide feedback back to them, and I work very hard to not let the word bubbles pop above my head because I know I'd be in trouble. But one of the things that gives me the greatest joy in my job is getting in buildings and seeing what's going on. And I have some personal skin in the game. My oldest son and his wife moved back, so I have two grandchildren in the system. I have one at Longacre Elementary and one at Power Middle School. And I get more feedback from them than I ever thought I would need to get. And snow days are one of them, right? When's it going to happen, and what's taking you so long to call it, Boppy? So I was at Longacre the other day, and Longacre Elementary went through construction last year, and it was a building that was built in the 50s or 60s, so it didn't have lockers, right? When we built buildings, then we provided shelves, and we provided you a boot rack and a hook to hang your coat, and you can't do that anymore from safety reasons. And the first grade classes were learning to write letters. So they're writing a group letter, and I walked in at a time they were working on a letter, and they were working on an opinion letter about their lockers, because their lockers in the winter are too small. Right, they got boots, they got coats, they got furry, fuzzy things. So they said, "Dear Dr. Heitch and Mr. Reeby, our lockers won't close. In our opinion, we need bigger lockers and we need more space for our stuff. In the winter, boots, snow pants, hats, gloves, big fluffy coats, and our backpacks. We also share our lockers with a locker partner. And we don't have enough space, so our lockers won't close. So for the next schools," they're not really worried about themselves, they're looking out for their friends. "For the next schools, you should make the lockers wider and taller. Maybe you should add more lockers so we don't have to share. Sincerely, the kids in room 3 at Longacre Elementary." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Heisch, and thank you for helping our future citizens reach their potential. We appreciate all that you can do. Right now, I'd like to welcome Dirk Beamer to introduce our next speaker. Dirk Beamer is a partner at Wright Beamer Attorneys. Wright Beamer Attorneys has deep roots in the community. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced and used their legal services. Dirk spearheads efforts in insurance law, employment claims, contract disputes, but their firm also does a lot more. So if you would please put your hands together, warm welcome for Dirk Beamer.
Thank you, Mary. And thank all of you for supporting this important event with your presence here this morning. It's fantastic when we come together as a community and take the time to listen to each other and understand what's going on and what we need to do to continue to support and grow this great community. I have the pleasure this morning of introducing Steve Schneeman. I've known Steve a long time, and thinking about this and thinking of his many talents, what is it that makes him so well suited for his new role as mayor of Farmington? And for me, the thing that kept coming back was his tremendous investment in the city of Farmington. I first met Steve and his wife Jennifer as new neighbors in our neighborhood in the historic district of Farmington almost 20 years ago. If you drive down Oakland, east of Farmington Road, you'll see the beautiful home they've renovated and where they raised their 3 daughters. So from day one, whether it's at the Glen, whether it's at the high school, or any numerous points between, Steve's been invested as a father and as a homeowner. You probably know Steve's a very talented architect, master's degree from Berkeley, faculty position at Lawrence Tech, but he has a day job too, running 2 nationally certified architectural firms, and those 2 firms he has located right in downtown Farmington. And doubling down on that investment, he's taken commercial property, renovated that property, and put those 2 firms there so they are located centrally in our community. He's invested as a family man, as a homeowner. He's invested as a professional and as a business owner. And yet, on top of all of that, he somehow found and finds time to be invested as a community leader. Whether it's back to our days on the DDA, stints on the Planning Commission or the Zoning Board of Appeals, to his current tour of duty with the City Council, Steve has invested countless hours for the betterment of our community. I'm very proud to call Steve a neighbor. I'm proud to call him a friend, and I'm proud to introduce him this morning as the mayor of the city of Farmington. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Steve Schneeman.
We love you, Steve.
All right. Well, good morning. Thank you for the warm welcome and for the introduction, Dirk. And I want to thank the Greater Farmington Area Chamber for hosting this event, and certainly all of our sponsors, including Mr. Beamer's firm. It's really a tremendous honor for me to be here this morning as mayor, representing the great city of Farmington. I've got some colleagues here that I'd like to recognize. Our new Mayor Pro Tem, Sarah Bowman, newly elected Council Member Maria Taylor, also newly elected Council Member Joe LaRussa, who loves me. And then former Mayor Bill Galvin, who many of you know, was unable to be here this morning. So in paying homage to him in his 4 years as serving as mayor, I thought it'd be nice to show a picture of him running his final meeting as mayor. And we were actually able to dig up a slide that shows his final banging of the gavel. So this was our last meeting. I think that's Greg Colley on the right there. But in seriousness, I do want to publicly thank former council members Greg Colley and Jeff Scott, who through their volunteerism on council, the DDA, the Grand River Corridor Improvement Authority, the 8 Mile Boulevard Association, and much, much more, have decades of public service between the two of them that they've given to the residents of Farmington. So again, I just want to say thank you to both of those gentlemen. Also joined today by city staff. Our city manager is here, David Murphy. Executive assistant Melissa Andrade, I think, is somewhere here in the back. Assistant to the city manager and DDA executive director Kate Knight. City clerk Sue Halberstadt. Deputy clerk Mary Mullison. Our city treasurer is here, Chris Weber. Deputy director of public safety Ted Worthman is here. Economic and community development coordinator Kevin Christensen is here. Our city attorneys, Tom Schultz and Beth, are here as well. Farmers Market Manager Walt Gajewski is here with us. We've got some DDA members in the group. I know Mickey Skrisky was here, and Todd Kraft, and maybe some others. And our Governor Warner Mansion Director Kimberly Shea is here as well. And I also want to recognize that after many years of public service, this year we'll see the retirements of our city clerk, Sue Halberstadt, as well as our long-serving building official, John Council. So they've done an excellent job, and you will be missed. Dirk, again, thank you for the introduction. I'm going to skip through some of this because he talked about some of the things I was going to talk about. As the new mayor, I thought I'd introduce myself. I am an architect. I've got offices in downtown Farmington. We've done lots of buildings in Farmington and Farmington Hills. One of the firms that I'm a part of did the downtown branch of the Farmington Library, for instance. We've also done numerous buildings downtown. The Farmington Brewing Company, for instance, is one of them. I am the proud father of 3 daughters and one long-suffering wife, Jennifer. I'm on the far left, in case you were wondering. This is actually a photo from the Christmas card that we never sent. My oldest daughter, Caroline, is graduating from Palm Beach Atlantic University this spring with her degree in marketing, and she will marry her Farmington High School sweetheart, Dakota. They get married on Belle Isle this summer in Detroit. My middle daughter, Genevieve, is a junior studying engineering at Calvin College. And my youngest daughter, Annalise, is a junior at Farmington High School. And I just want to thank George and all the school officials that are here today for providing an excellent education for our daughters. I've served on council for 4.5 years, and prior to that, as Dirk mentioned, nearly 8 years on the DDA. We lived here in Farmington in an apartment in the early 1990s, and I saw tremendous potential here in Farmington. And so when we moved back from California, I chose Farmington as our home and purchased a home in the Historic District in 1999. Got some highlights to share with you from the past year. I had asked our department heads to share some information with me about highlights from the year. And one of the things we did from our clerk's office is implemented new election equipment. And these machines are guaranteed to have no hanging chads. This helped us have our fastest ever election day results to Oakland County by 8:30 on the evening of election day, this past election. We've been digitizing all of the city records, and with upgraded technology and streamlined many of the services that the clerk's department handles. City clerk also told me about a remarkable resident named Phyllis Kelly, who at 104 years old is the oldest living member of the Michigan National Guard. He also has a perfect voting record. He always notes on his absentee ballot that he's proud to vote. And we're proud to have remarkable residents like Mr. Kelly in Farmington. From the city treasurer's office, as I mentioned, I asked our department heads for information, and as I was assembling the information, I got an email from Chris Weber, and he started off like this, quote, "Hello, Steve. The treasurer's office is not the most interesting of the city's operations," unquote. Way to sell it. Then again, you probably don't want a sales type person for your treasurer. That could be potentially dangerous. But Chris went on to list as one of the first accomplishments that the city has changed the way that it purchases medical and dental and vision service for its employees and retirees, which has resulted in a 10% savings, about $100,000, while maintaining the same level of service, which I think is very interesting, actually. We also received our usual high marks for our annual audit, thanks to Chris for that, and Amy. Chris has also been educating me about some of the more esoteric pieces of information about our funding and where our taxes go. If I'm going to be talking about these things as mayor, I better have at least some idea of what I'm talking about. For instance, Chris recently taught me that contrary to what I think is popular belief, when compared with other municipalities our size in this region, we actually have a millage rate that is in the lowest 1/3 of all of those cities. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. From the DPW, the leaves, as we all know, took their time falling this fall, and we did a heroic job of vacuuming and vacuuming and vacuuming some more, and then it started to snow, and it's still snowing. And our DPW has done a fantastic job of keeping our roads clear and safe. And they've done all of this while being down for about the last 5 or 6 months by about 25% of their staff. So kudos to our DPW. They also worked with MDOT last year on the Grand River Mill and Overlay project, where we had some significant restriping in and around downtown to add new parking on the east of downtown, and then bike lanes and reduced lanes on the west of downtown, helping pedestrians to feel safer on the adjacent sidewalks. Public Safety recently purchased a gently used 75-foot Spartan ladder truck from a municipality in Iowa. Public Safety Director Demers found a fiscally responsible way to solve a need that the department had. Whereas a new ladder truck would have been around $1 million, we got what we needed for less than $100,000. So kudos to our public safety leadership for finding a creative and cost-effective way to secure the resources that they need to provide a level of service that our residents expect. I'm also happy to report that major crime in Farmington was down 12% and vehicle crashes down 17% last year. Public Safety has trained all city employees in CPR. That's Officer Matt Miracle there, teaching our city manager, Dave Murphy, how to administer CPR. So if you're going to go into cardiac arrest in Farmington, I suggest you do that at City Hall. Our Warner Mansion received some long-needed improvements last year and stabilization. This back portion of the building that you may be familiar with was added on later to the beautiful Italianate structure, and over the years had been separating. You could actually, from the inside, see right outside. And so the work was done to actually stitch the two back together and put a good solid foundation under that, so it'll be in good shape for many years to come. Last summer also saw the very first fundraising gala, and it was attended by many here in this room. Event raised over $30,000. So I hope to Kimberly that this is an event that we continue to have. Our farmers market last year was selected as Detroit's favorite farmers market by Channel 4, WDIV, their Vote for the Best competition. And they've partnered with Beaumont to establish themselves as a community resource with a goal of embracing fitness, wellness, and nutrition, and offering free screenings and follow-up. During its 4th annual Community Health Awareness Fair last year, there was a new 5K Rooster Run that was established, and that's led by none other than our new Mayor Pro Tem, Sarah Bowman. If you'd like to know why it's called a Rooster Run, I suggest you go to the 2nd annual Rooster Run. And some breaking news, this year is the 25th anniversary of the Farmers Market, and they've got a great new logo to celebrate that, and you'll see it here first. The market opens on May 19. 2017 was a busy year for the DDA. First, sadly, the DDA in downtown Farmington lost a friend and beneficiary in George Riley when he passed earlier this year. His contributions to our city were both numerous and generous, and his legacy will endure as Farmington endures. Downtown Farmington also welcomed a friend last year when they invited Kate Knight. I asked you if I could use this. You said it was okay. To take on the tasks of the executive director. Kate, as of late, has been adroitly handling PR issues related to our ongoing redevelopment efforts in downtown. And in case you hadn't heard, she's helping to find a new home for an old barn, as seen in the background, on a redevelopment site in Farmington. So call Kate if you're interested in the barn. We've got several new businesses we're welcoming to downtown. There's a Japanese steakhouse with sushi. There's the Sidecar Slider Bar that recently got a DDA liquor license. They're moving into the space where Bellacino's is currently, and if you're a Bellacino's fan, no worries there, because they're moving just down the street to where Dan Subs was in a newly renovated space. And for those that are so inclined, we have the Loft Cigar Bar, which was recently also awarded a DDA liquor license, will become a part of the unique collection of businesses in downtown Farmington. DDA also purchased 2 properties in downtown Farmington that are a key part of our vision plan for greater connectivity between our downtown and Shiawassee Park, something that residents have been asking for many years. The DDA is also actively looking for ways to move the Farmington Road streetscape forward so that our downtown can have a cohesive sense of high-quality design and place. This is a very important effort in our years-long goal of making downtown Farmington second to none in its aesthetic and its experience. This is the kind of investment that attracts both visitors and new businesses and investors to the downtown. And as a way to illustrate just how much downtown Farmington has changed, Kate recently shared with me a story from Metro Mode from last summer with a great quote from our Civic Theater manager, Scott Freeman, who's been doing a fantastic job running the theater, by the way. And in order to sort of paint the picture of what's happened in Farmington over the last 5 to 10 years, Scott had a quote that I thought was really great. He says, if you do a really slow blink from 5 or 6 years ago, you open your eyes and you say, wow, that's really cool. Things really have changed a lot in downtown Farmington in that time. And I agree with Scott. What's happening in downtown Farmington is really cool. I just put that slide in to remind everybody that spring starts 6 weeks from today. From Economic and Community Development, we recently adopted the updated Downtown Master Plan. We're also very happy to have the Flanders sub with 33 new single-family homes in a community park. And George had mentioned earlier about us working together with the schools, and I think this is a great example of that. The old 47th District Court property, this project is actually going through the PUD process right now, and that's 14 new single-family homes. And of course, we've made no secret of the fact that we're very hopeful we'll be able to redevelop the adjacent property to the east into residences for new Farmington families and school-aged children. With Maxfield Training Center, we're expecting new site plans very soon for a residential development that's going to stitch in very nicely with the existing fabric of that part of our downtown. And of course, we're very happy to have a new mixed-use office retail building on the old Kmart site. Okay, the budget. During a recent council meeting, I made some remarks regarding a 5-year forecast that our treasurer had prepared. While it's impossible to know what our revenue and expenditures will look like 5 to 10 years in the future, there was one message that was obvious. We are on an unsustainable financial trajectory. If some of these revenue expenditure variables do not change, then at some point in the next 5 to 7 years, we would need to begin borrowing money just to keep our city at current operating levels. The causes of this are numerous. There's been a dramatic drop in state revenue sharing, this MML slide, which some of you may have seen before. I think Mayor Galvin may have showed it last year. References the drop in Michigan on the very far right there, where that red line on the far right, in drop in spending from the state. The Headley Act, which allowed revenue from property taxes to drop quickly during the Great Recession, 32% between 2008 and 2012 to be exact, but then inch up just very slowly, barely keeping up with inflation. Our total property tax values in Farmington are today what they were in the year 2000, 18 years ago. There's a bit of a misconception out there that we have higher taxes in Farmington. While it may be true that our millage rate is slightly higher than the much larger communities that surround us, like Farmington Hills, Novi, Livonia, that comparison is incommensurable. It's not an apples-to-apples comparison. There's a reason that on a per-unit basis, a gigantic sheet cake from Costco that feeds 40 people costs less than 40 cupcakes from a local bakery. It's about economies of scale. In Farmington, we've actually been able to have our cake and eat it too. Why do I say this? Because if we look at communities in our region that are actually similar to size in Farmington, we actually pay less than most of those communities in taxes. In fact, we're in the lowest 1/3 of those communities when it comes to our millage rates. So we have the best of both worlds in Farmington. We have big city services with small town atmosphere, accessibility, and convenience. But as I said a minute ago, it's unsustainable. How do we address this? We continue to take every opportunity to control and reduce costs, like our treasurer saving $100,000 on health costs, and our public safety department finding a great used ladder truck for a fraction of the cost of a new one. And we continue to encourage redevelopment to bring in increased revenue. That is why it is so important for us to be a redevelopment-ready community. Because of this budget unsustainability, as a council, we have discussed the need for a forum for citizen engagement so that we can get all interested parties together to have a dialogue about the future financial well-being of our city. We'll use the forum as one of education, asking tough questions, then building consensus about what the best way forward is for our city. Expect to hear more about this outreach in the coming months. Now, some of you may have heard The Time magazine recently named Farmington Hills as the best city in Michigan to live in. And it named amenities like a charming downtown, historic theater, as some of the reasons why Farmington Hills is such a great place to live. We just want to say to our friends in the hills, congratulations. And you're welcome. But my real question is, if Farmington Hills is the best city in Michigan to live in, does that mean that Ken is the best mayor in Michigan? Last year, Farmington was also named as one of the top 50 safest cities in Michigan. And you may know that Farmington was recently named the 5th smartest city by a career search website. This is a reflection of our excellent schools again, I believe. When one carefully considers all the reasons why they would live in a certain place, I think the smart choice is Farmington. I like to think that we're sort of like a college town without the college. Farmington Hills was also on the same smartest cities list, just a little bit further down on the list. Again, I wonder if that's a reflection of the mayors. I think Ken only has one PhD, if I'm not mistaken. And speaking of Dr. Massey, he recently shared with me that in 2017, Michigan was named by a travel website to be the best state to live in the entire United States. So, let's see. Farmington is one of the safest cities, one of the smartest cities, which also happens to be surrounded on our entire perimeter, enveloped by the best city to live in Michigan, which is apparently the best state in the entire United States, the best country in the world. So that's a lot of bests. All I can say is it's got to be the new mayor. But in all seriousness, we all know in this room, and we're all very thankful for what a great city we have in Farmington, and certainly what a great place we live in and are blessed to live in the greater Farmington community. So how do we continue all this greatness? We continue to invest in our community and our downtown while finding ways to put our city on a solid, long-term financial footing. These efforts will include a safe and walkable multimodal transportation network and continued investment in our downtown and commercial district to increase density, particularly new increased residential density. While we've made great strides over the past 15 years, we cannot rest on what we've accomplished thus far. About 12 or so years ago, when the Michigan economy was slumping into recession, the then president of the Farmington DDA, none other than Mr. Dirk Beamer, and I think it might have even been more than 12 years ago, when talking about the need for us to invest in a downtown park and a Grand River streetscape, you'll recall that the park used to be a big sea of asphalt parking lot. He stated that this investment would help to position Farmington well for when the Michigan economy started to pick up again. And while we all know that it took Michigan many years to work itself through those painful economic times, Dirk was absolutely right. And today we're bearing the fruits of those labors. George, when he was speaking a few minutes ago, talked about the Michigan State website where you could click on your school and look at the stats and the data. And then he also said he looked at the schools around. Why? Well, we are in a competition. We're competing with the communities around us. The schools are, our cities are. We need to be the best that we can be here in Farmington. We're not Birmingham, we're not Northville, we're not Plymouth. We're uniquely Farmington. But we need to capitalize on that brand, and we need to make it the best that it can be. Static communities slowly wither, while dynamic communities like Farmington, will thrive. And we need to move forward while the economy is good. We've got some tailwinds right now. Now is the time to build. Now is the time to invest. And now is the time to continue to work as hard as we can to make Farmington competitive and the absolute best that it can be. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Schneeman. I'd like to say, from the Chamber's perspective, we are the Greater Farmington Area Chamber of Commerce, so we have both cities. So I think it's me that's bringing us all into the best of the best. I would expect my I expect my doors to start being pounded down with new members, and But anyway, okay. So I'd like to take a time now to welcome Lauren Royston, who is the Community Affairs Manager for the Consumers Energy here in Michigan. Just to say a couple things about consumers. They've been in Michigan for 131 years. They service over 6.6 million residents in the 68 counties in the Lower Peninsula. They also invest in our community, and they make it a better place to live and work. And we are all looking for the leadership of consumers to lead the charge on energy efficiency, sustainable energy, and new technologies in power generation and reducing our environmental impact. So please welcome Lauren Royston.
Okay. Flip and flip and flip again and flip one more time and flip. Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Lauren Royston, and Consumers Energy is very honored to be a sponsor at this event. I'm the Community Affairs Manager, and so I engage with all 62 municipalities here in Oakland County. So again, I'm very excited to be here today. And I have the honor of introducing Ken Massey. Ken Massey is a lifelong resident of Farmington Hills. He was elected to City Council in November 2003. Ken served our community as Mayor Pro Tem in 2006, 2010, and 2015. He is a member, past chair of the Farmington Hills Farmington Emergency Preparedness Commission. Additionally, he is founding member and chair of Farmington Safe. Ken advocates nationally for Farmington Hills as a member of the National League of Cities Public Safety and Crime Prevention Steering Committee and served as the organization's chair in 2012. Ken previously represented residents and their interests as president and trustee of the Farmington Area Council of Homeowners Association and remains active as member of his subdivision's Homeowner Association Board. Ken attended Farmington Public Schools, graduating from North Farmington High School. Community involvement was very important to him at an early age with his participation in civic groups and in scouting, where he earned the rank of Eagle Scout. That's very important. And Ken holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Eastern Michigan University and a PhD from University of Texas Southwestern Medical School. He has also completed fellowships at the University of Arizona and the Michigan Hospital Association. Professionally, Ken is a biomedical scientist employed at Wayne State University. He also serves as chairman of the board of directors of Beaumont Farmington Hills. Ken and his wife, Catherine, are proud to call Farmington Hills his home. Everyone, let's please welcome Mayor Ken Massey.
Well, good morning, everyone. So it's my pleasure to be representing the city of Farmington Hills here today to tell you some of the great things that are going on within our community. We've already heard good things from the schools. We've already heard great things from the city of Farmington. And it's, I like to think we save dessert. So, talking about best cities and all that. But as I get started, let me thank the Chamber for setting up this event. Also, the sponsors, because without the sponsors, this would not be possible. I plan on sharing with you some of the great things that we did in 2017 and looking forward to 2018 and beyond. And I hope you'll agree we have some exciting things moving forward. As I should do, I want to introduce our council. So I have Mayor Pro Tem Richard Lerner, Dr. Teresa Rich is here, Dr. Randy Bruce, Valerie, Councilmember Knoll was here just a moment ago, so she slipped out. But you know, we've got a great council, and I want to say that this council works very well together. And in 2017, we did have a little election, and Councilwoman Knoll, Councilwoman Steckloff, and Mr. Bridges were all re-elected. And I want to say that elections, Mayor Schneeman talked about the new election equipment that we have in Farmington. We also have that in Farmington Hills. So Pam Smith is our city clerk. Where's Pam? Stand up, Pam, be recognized. She runs elections, and just with not having dangling chads, we have no collusion problems with Southfield or Livonia. So Pam, you and your team are doing a great job. I also want to introduce our city manager, Dave Boyer, and Dave is doing a bang-up job, and he is supported by our assistant city manager, Gary Mekchin. Gary, at the back of the room. Just another comment about having the 3 city council members reelected at this time, because we have a lot of things that we've been starting over the years. And I have to honestly say that it's exciting to have the team together, because we've started things, then that background, that experience, and the vision is going to help us continue forward as we move into the next few years of what I'm saying is going to be great for our city. So this is the state of the cities, and I would be remiss if I don't tell you the state of the city of Farmington Hills is strong. And I hope that the data that I share with you is going to convince you of that. We have lots of great places around the city of Farmington Hills that are very readily identifiable. On this slide, you'll see our court building, and I'm going to walk around a little bit. Our court building, Longacre House, the golf course, some of the great amenities that we have. As you look around, year-round, we have wonderful sites. Every season has something to offer in the spaces that we have in Farmington Hills. I will say, well, it's not always sunny in Farmington Hills, but when that fog clears, all of these things add up to why, as Mayor Schneeman talked about, why we were named as the best city in the state of Michigan. And I have to say, it isn't the city of Farmington Hills. It is the community of the greater Farmington area, because while we may have been named that, some of the things that were put in there, job growth, some of the national companies and international companies that call Farmington Hills home. Those are the kinds of things, that strong economic growth that we continue in the city of Farmington Hills. But it did mention our quaint boutique shops downtown and our and the Civic Theater and so forth. It isn't just the city of Farmington Hills. It's truly our community. So I have to tell you, and Mr. Okonski actually said he's been here for many years. I am a lifelong resident, as was brought up. And so all of us lifelong residents do agree. We understand why it's here. And yes, this is a picture of me just before I was elected to city council. But some of the things that make us great. Financially, let's touch on that first. We're a financially strong city. You are not intended to look at this pie chart. There's a lot more detail that goes into it, and I didn't want to bore you with all of that. But understand, we have our balanced budget. We're fiscally sound. We're AAA bond rated. That saves our taxpayers money as we have to bond for some of the great projects that we want to continue to do. We have our post-employment benefits funded, and this isn't just this particular administration. This goes back for 32 years. We've had clean audits. Our property values are responding and rebounding, but not necessarily doing so as fast as we would like, but they're coming up. This strong financial picture is going to be continued. We did have a transition when we lost Dave Guida last year to his retirement, but we have recruited Mr. Steve Barr. He came to us from the City of Novi Schools. Steve, if you would stand up and be recognized. In the back, Steve and his team will continue this legacy of great financial stability. And talking about bringing in new people that we recruit, it's really the people, it's the staff of the City of Farmington Hills that makes it a great place to live, work, and play. It's not necessarily its government, although we'd like to take that credit, but it's the people that work here. And John Randall, John, where are you? John's back in the back. John runs our Human Resources Department, and John has actually, he and his team make sure that we recruit the best of the best. And this was recognized because we retain people. Our employee awards banquet, which happened a week ago Monday, we identified, and we have our firefighter of the year is Lieutenant Dan Wecker, police officer of the year is Robert Garrick. We have Henry Yee as our outstanding employee of the year, and all of the people who have been here for 10, 15, 25, we even have a 40-year employee. So the City of Farmington Hills is a stable place to work. The Human Resources Department also makes sure that it's a family-friendly place to work. And we were recently awarded from the Michigan Breastfeeding Association an award for being family-friendly in making sure that our women who have had a new family addition feel comfortable and have a place to come back to that's very supportive. So all in all, we've got great employees, and we want to continue that. I was talking with the city manager, and the number of employees that can retire over the next few years is actually daunting. So John, you and your team have a lot of work to do if people decide to take advantage of that. We're also a safe city. We continuously rank very high on safety. We're ranked again the second safest city in the state of Michigan. We are the 42nd safest city in the country for populations greater than 50,000. That is up from last year where we were 44th. Violent crime, our property crime statistics are dropping, and this is a testament to the professionalism and dedication of our police department, led by our chief, Chuck Nebus. And Chuck, and you and your leadership team are to be commended. When people feel safe, they can pursue the other passions in their life. We have new hires at our police department. Chief Nebus is constantly making sure that we have the best of the best as part of our succession planning, adding new folks. Also, adding to that safety, and our other first responders are going to, is our fire department. And Chief Unruh, you and your department need to be commended. The increase in call volume, which went up a little bit, 3.4%, but it puts us way more than, or it puts us above the 9,500 mark for number of calls in a year. Most of those calls are EMS calls. They're medical calls. 63% of what our fire department does is advanced life support medical calls. And our EMS coordinator, Inspector Jim Edson, just sent out a great message yesterday. We have one of the highest survival rates for out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. When Mayor Schneeman said, if you want to have an event, if you have a cardiac arrest, have it at City Hall. We have one, we can be very proud. We're way above the national average, but it takes bystander CPR, starting right at the time of the scene, through the advanced life support system, through what goes on at our hospital, the trauma center, and what Beaumont Farmington Hills does through their cardiac cath lab and into the intensive care unit. And we have 21%, Jim? of our patients who sustain an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest walk out of the hospital neurologically intact. And we just had another save this week, and he calls them goal line stands, and it's an amazing record, and it shows how that entire team can work together for the betterment of our community. Fire calls only represent an actual 2% of what the fire department does. All the other 35% is various types of calls for service. But this past year, we had 4 major fires, which resulted in an $8.5 million overall loss. So it was its second highest in terms of our fire losses, but we had some very large fire losses this year. But they were only property. We didn't really have any major losses of life, and it could have been much worse. This year, we are adding a fire truck as well. We are getting a tower truck that will allow us to go up to 100 feet. This 2018 Rosenhauer Cobra will be delivered to us in May of this year. It's coming out of Sioux Falls. Little factoid for you, fire trucks, you can't go down to Bob Sellers and buy a fire truck. Each one of these, and it's why being able to buy one in a used situation, each one of these is custom built for the individual departments. So there's a lot of lead time. It's almost a year to order a fire truck and have it delivered. And this will be here for the residents of Farmington Hills and also our surrounding cities through our mutual aid contracts. Both of our departments engage very highly with our youth. This adds to community programming, police community programs, and youth programs with the fire department are great. Not to say that everything is rosy. We have our challenges. Every community is facing the issues of opiate overdose, opiate abuse, opiate, whatever you want to call it, the epidemic. Our police officers and our paramedics all carry naloxone, that's the generic name for Narcan. And last year, Narcan had to be used 53 times in our community. Those 53 uses resulted in saving the majority of those individuals where it had to be deployed. It's sad that we have to do that, but it's just reflective of what's going on. And this community is meeting that challenge. We have award-winning services in terms of the Department of Public Services, and I included this at this point because a lot of people think of first responders as your police officers, your firefighters, your public safety officers, and they fail to realize that the first people to respond on mornings like this morning is your Department of Public Works, your Department of Public Services. Karen Mondora, stand up and take a wave, and her team, Kevin McCarthy's back there. They keep our roads clean, and you can tell if you're driving. Let's say I meet with the mayor of Livonia fairly often because we're trying to work on some joint things, some regional issues. And when you drive across 8 Mile into the city of Farmington Hills on a snowy day, you know it. And it's because of the hard work that the men and women in our DPS do for us. They also work on infrastructure like water and some of the water issues that we have. I will say that this year we have a new water main going in the Greencastle subdivision. It was adversely affected when the Middle Belt Tunnel was put in. That now allows us to, now that new water main will represent a permanent fix for the water issues that we were seeing there. If you've been driving around at all in 2017, you will also notice that there are a lot of road projects going on. We put a lot of investment into our local major roads. Talk about Drake, 12 Mile, 13 Mile. There was 14 Mile work. There was work on 11 Mile. There was some work on Inkster. And all at the same time, because we can't, we want to make it interesting for you. All in all, we're going to continue that because the population in the city of Farmington Hills goes up 50% in the daytime with people crossing and utilizing those roads as they're going back and forth to their occupations, their jobs, and so forth. So we've got a lot. We also did subdivision roads. This past year, we completed the largest subdivision. It actually took 2 building seasons in Independence Commons. Those roads in there are now excellent, but they raised a major issue for us because I'm going to tell you just a before and after picture of what the broken up roads look like versus new pristine pavement. We like the new pristine pavement. It's easier on the vehicles, less maintenance, and so forth. But one of the challenges was that in 1973, when Farmington Hills first became a city, over 90% of our roads were gravel. Mr. Okonsky, am I wrong? Now, fast forward to 2018, and 96% of our roads are paved. How do we continue to pay for local roads? We, your city council, are going to go to the voters and ask them, do you want to stay with the special assessment district, which was put in place and made sense when the roads were gravel because it allowed subdivision members to determine when and how the roads were paved, to today, perhaps a millage is in place. And in order to make sure that we do this the right way, we don't want to doubly impact those people who are paying on an SAD, special assessment district. So we're asking the legislature to develop a bill that will allow us to do an exemption, a carve-out for people currently paying in SADs. So that's pending. As soon as we get that legislation passed, it's been introduced. If you want to call and promote it, it's Bill 5453. It's in committee right now. We're hoping to have this done very soon. And then later on in the year, looking forward, we're going to have this on the ballot. Farmington Hills, also part of that economic stability is that we have a lot of great companies here in Farmington Hills. We are a destination for automotive research and development. I was talking to an individual from the MEDC literally yesterday, and the comment was made, you have this grouping, this concentration of companies that is very favorable for research and development, specifically in particular in the automotive space. And one of the reasons that that happens is that as you get to a tipping point, more companies want to be surrounded by those same companies. So that's why we're seeing this influx. To that point, Acates Power, they do development of internal combustion engines and help make them more powerful and fuel efficient. They had their opportunity to go to San Diego, but they decided instead of San Diego or anywhere else in the United States, they're staying here in Farmington Hills and they're expanding their plant and moving that particular piece of our economy forward. Centria, gentlemen, nice to meet you this morning. Centria is here. Their new national headquarters could have gone anywhere elsewhere in the United States, but they're here in Farmington Hills, and it is their plan to add 1,200 jobs over the next 5 years to our local economy. Thank you for that. Humanetics. Humanetics has saved literally millions of lives because of their safety test equipment. Some of us may call them crash test dummies. But if you look at the history of this company and the evolution from just simply a bag of sand to what we have today, which are instrumented devices that are computerized and emulate what happens when an individual is involved in a car accident. Excuse me one second. Nice, I'm glad I brought that up here. This new plant is expanded. Humanetics relocated their headquarters from Plymouth into Farmington Hills into a much larger, customized and expanded space. JST Corporation is a Japanese auto supplier who has submitted plans for their North American headquarters to be located on 12 Mile, south side of 12 Mile, west of Drake. And they've got some very unique buildings that are going through review right now, including a meeting space that is a tree house. So this is going to be an interesting one. All of these are made possible by two different groups. One, Kelfani Stevens. And Kelfani, I saw you here. Where are you? Wave. There he is. Kelfani is our economic development director. So he has you can see his tie into recruiting and helping to maintain companies and works well with the Chamber of Commerce. The other group that is maybe not as appreciated in this whole process is that of planning and development. And Ed Gardner, is Ed here today? Ed, there you are. Because it's Ed's team that helps to meet with these groups, look at their plans, and between Kelfani and Ed and their teams, they actually bring in the right stakeholders so that questions, issues can be addressed before the companies actually come in. It decreases the overall regulatory, we have business-friendly regulations, and it also makes it simpler for folks to come in. So we are business ready because of their groups. Going to special services, and you're in our caustic center, and this is run by special services, and that's headed up by Ellen and her team. Ellen, wave. And what Ellen and her team do goes way beyond what you see here at the caustic center. We have programs and other areas that they take care of, like the splash pad. We had over 100,000 visitors to the splash pad, the archery range, and Mayor Schneeman, you mentioned Mr. Riley. Mr. Riley funded that archery range, and it is one of the most popular programs that we have. We have fun for all ages. Had to include the picture of the Chile Open, which is playing golf. Our golf course this year stayed open until December the 5th and had more rounds of golf played on it than it had ever in the past. But first Saturday in February, some of us who are a little crazier than not go out and play golf in whatever weather it brings. And it just shows that we've been doing that. Farmington Hills has done that for 33 years. So we're on the front of some really unique opportunities. We include programs for all age groups, and you go outside. These are inside programs or outside programs and really add to that quality of life and that fabric of life. So, Dr. Heisch mentioned some difficult decisions, and my colleagues on the school board have been wrestling with very difficult decisions. And we were told that the high school, which we now know as Harrison High School, will be closing in June of 2019. This is an asset to this community. This is a taxpayer asset that we have invested literally in maintenance operations. Our tax base has put in several $100 million. To let that go, we on council felt that it would be a travesty. So we had a plan. We started looking at a plan once we heard that that decision had been made. Many of you may have heard that we have issued a letter of intent that we would like to take over and work with our school board colleagues to take over Harrison High School and repurpose it into a state-of-the-art activity center. This will do several things. It protects that taxpayer asset. It gives us a state-of-the-art activity center for decades to come, and it will preserve the legacy that is Harrison High School. We're committed to that. You may have also read in the newspaper that the letter of intent had a thing in there about $1. And that's just so that we had something to start a dialogue on. I am very pleased to tell you that having discussed this with with my contact at the member on the school board, that we can now stand proudly and say that we've come together at least in principle, on an idea for a cost that all of us can live with, and we are looking forward to now developing those details, which will be forthcoming. But the plan also gives us a performing arts center, which has been in our Parks and Rec master plan as a request. It gives us, opens it up to this very nice, airy, programmable space so that our kids can come and really enjoy this and get them away from their electronic devices so that they have a place to go. We've been hearing that the residents want an aquatic center, and so those plans will allow us to have that. We've also heard that the gymnasium in here is often overcrowded. I know a gentleman who plays with he does a lot of, he plays basketball with police department on a police department basketball league, probably some firefighters in there as well, but they have to play at 11 o'clock at night because the gymnasium is often booked up. So this allows us 3 gymnasiums, and the entire process, we will repurpose it, and we want to start planning on this, so getting to the point where we have a gentleman's agreement is great. So I would like to leave you with this sign, which is our new branded sign for coming into the city of Farmington Hills. You'll start seeing those installed. We have one out there now that looks great. We do think this is the best place to live, and it's your community. So as I close up my comments, I hope that you've had a little bit to think about here. Some of the accomplishments we've done in the year 2017. Looking forward, we have a couple of big things coming up in 2018, and some of those will extend way beyond 2018. But communication works best when it's a two-way street. And when I say it's a two-way street, that means we want to hear from you. It's not just governance and staff. We want to hear from you. And in order to do that, I started these every 6 months meetings with the mayor and council. So a couple of council members will, along with myself, go out to the various fire stations and have meetings that are informal, just to chat about concepts. So I encourage you, come to those. Coming to a fire station near you. Our next ones will start in late March and April, and then we do them about every 6 months. So please come out and come to those. I'm inviting you because this is your city. We are your representatives. We work for you. We need to know what you're thinking. So, as I finish up my comments, I want to make 2 other acknowledgments. Number 1, I couldn't put this entire process together without Jill Pines, our city publicist. Jill, stand up, because this doesn't happen without you. Thank you very much. And I have one other introduction that I need to make, and that's because I couldn't do this at all without the support and love of my wife, Catherine. My wife, the other Dr. Massey. Catherine is the First Lady of Farmington Hills, and I am very proud to introduce her as such. So I hope what you take away from this is that, like, we are a great city. The state of the city is strong. But like any city, we have challenges. But we're well positioned to deal with those challenges. We look at challenges as opportunities, and we look forward to engaging with you, our business leaders, our residents, as we move into 2018. And I hope that you've enjoyed this morning, you've enjoyed our time, and perhaps the snow has stopped so that now as we go off to our jobs, we can enjoy the clean roads. So thanks, and have a great day. The raffle.
I just want to say thanks, everyone, for coming. As you know, both the cities of Farmington, Farmington Hills, along with our school system, really strengthens our communities, brings in businesses, helps us to attract families, and we have our offices in downtown Farmington, so we can see the progress firsthand. So thank you again for coming, and I'd like to invite Paulson's up to do the drawing for the TV.
We're certainly proud to be part of the State of the City. We have passed so for a number of years, and it's a great event. What we're doing here this evening, it's afternoon, or it's morning, is it? I talked to Mary last night. Out of ordinary, we're going to give away a television. It's a 43-inch 4K television. So, Mary, you're going to draw one up.
Oh, I'm going to draw it. Yes. It is the toy store for adults. Kind of like, okay. I'll let you read it.
Television goes to Mr. David France. There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paulsons, for your continued contributions to our community. Thank you again. All right, everybody, go ahead. Have a great day. Thanks.